2016. And of course, Dr. Poe, we've got 10 minutes, and so let's avail ourselves of all of your knowledge and information in terms of trying to bring all of this together.
Okay. Persons who are narcissistic or who care more about themselves than about anybody else, and who don't have an allegiance to God, to pleasing God, these persons almost always are addicted to having their own way. And as a matter of fact, my belief is that if I'm addicted to having my own way, then having my own way has become the most important thing. As long as I'm making an effort to get my own way, and as long as I'm in some way succeeding at getting my own way, then I'm pleased.
I'm all right.
I'm all right. Okay? All right?
Okay,
So you could see how that's antithetical to listening. You can see how that's antithetical to being humble. You can see how that's antithetical to being submissive. So persons who are addicted to having their own way, they are most often arrogant. They're most often prideful. They most often brag on themselves. They most often have a much higher opinion of themselves than other people. And so there you have it. There you have it. As I said before, many persons who are incarcerated in jails and prisons have the problem of being determined or being addicted to having their own way.
In spite of the fact that they might be incarcerated simply because of that attitude.
Absolutely. 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 I mean, if I won't listen to anybody, that means I can't learn from the experiences of other people.
Okay.
Okay? And so there's the problem, I think, that we see evidence of in the two people who are running. Well, I don't really see that really in Secretary Clinton, but I certainly see evidence of it in Mr. Trump, in all due respect.
Yeah, I understand exactly, and I don't think we are trying to say something because of criticism or anything like that, but I think it's obvious to a lot of people that it seems that he might have it going in a real sense, and then he decides to go home and tweet or something like that, and say something that's negative, and then refuse to be corrected in reference to it. And so it seems to me that if the idea is to achieve that office and you're moving toward it, and just as you think that you're moving toward it, you decide to do something that would misdirect you, and et cetera. And so it might be, is there anything that might be pulling him toward that, but when he feels that it might be within his grasp, he decides to do something else to keep that from happening. That's that's the impression that I get, and I felt that way for the longest, and I just wanted to find somebody who had the kind of information that I might be simply looking for somebody to affirm or confirm what I'm always already thinking, but that's what appears to me. And since most of us are so involved in terms of watching the television and finding out what's going on in reference to it, and one time the pendulum seems to be swinging his way, and by the time it seems to get there, he decides to go home and tweet or something like that. And I would imagine that that's quite confusing and in a real sense frustrating to some of the individuals that wish he would push forward. And I think that that's what we're seeing, we see being worked out continually.
Yes. And also let me just say that people who are narcissistic, who are determined to have their own way, they most often are vindictive.
Okay.
Vindictive, okay? They most often are prone to try to get even with other people.
Okay.
And so we see evidence of Mr. Trump's vindictiveness. Speaker Ryan said, "I'm not there yet," and Mr. Trump said, "I'm not there yet," when the opportunity came for him to endorse Speaker Ryan. So yes, I think that there's a problem there. There's a significant problem, and I'm trusting that that God, along acting through the American people, will make the decision that I think that's really going to be good for the country.
Now, is there a solution for a person who might be faced with such a problem in their own lives? I mean, what can be done in order to rectify that situation, to make them come to an understanding that things ought to be different?
Right. Well, I think that surrender to God. God is the answer. He's the only answer to low and very low self-esteem. He's the only answer to self-loathing or self-disgust or a person not feeling good about themselves. God is the only answer. And He's created us such that unless we turn to Him, unless we find our salvation in Him, unless we find our healing through Him, then we continue to suffer the pains of low or very low self-esteem. It's very difficult for me to love other people if I don't really have the proper love for myself.
Okay.
I recall Oprah Winfrey said once, she said, I don't know about, I'm not an expert on racism, but all I know is that if you can't hate me unless you first hate yourself.
That's
unless
right.
you first hate yourself. Okay. So I'm in prayer for Mr. Trump. I do pray for him. Okay, and I wish him the best. But I don't think that he's the man for the job of presidency at the present time.
And I don't think that he's a man that would like to be. You know, I think he'd rather take the run and be successful in the run. But I don't think that he would.
Well, as president, you cannot have your own way.
No.
Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, you can have your own way. You've got to be willing to listen to your advisors and to other people who have a much better knowledge than you have. And so if you got a problem of not being willing to listen, okay, and not being willing to compromise, okay, then no, the presidency is not the job that you need.
That's right.
It's not the job that you need.
You like to run, but it's not. And running brings a lot of excitement and everything else about it, and it's entertaining, and et cetera, and et cetera. But when it comes time that the ballot, that the votes are counted, and the possibilities of you having to do what you have to do, so you can't. You have to stay in the White House.
Absolutely.
Sit in.
You got
to stay there a while.
And plus, you got a schedule, and you got to follow the schedule. You got to be willing to follow the schedule, okay? Which is like following an authority outside of yourself, okay? So, so anyway, I want to thank you for inviting me to come and to share in this way. It has helped me to crystallize my thinking about the situation, about election, about the presidential election in 2016.
Yeah, well, I think I want to thank you, and we've got about a minute before this show ends for the day. But that's essentially what I wanted to do. You know, to after seeing that. About love and, you know, how persons ought to respect, and the things that we've been talking about over the last 15 or 20 years. But, but I think that, and I guess that's primarily through those kind of conversations that I came to the conclusion that, hey, I got to talk to Poe about this, because, you know, this has been weighing on my mind, and every time it happens, I say, well, how did this happen? And now I know, I've got a fairly good idea that sometimes you just don't,